everyone, Alex at Corumdale Farm. It is 100 degrees out, but I don't think it's ever going to get much cooler while the sun is up. So now I thought it would be a great time to give you a tour of the flower field behind me and the pumpkin and watermelon, cantaloupe, all of that patch in the back, and see how things have been growing since our last couple videos, which, if I recall correctly, were at the end of May. So it's been over a month plus of growth, so you can see how things are going. This is my watermelon row, and things are gangbusters. They are so happy. So even in the great drowning of June 2022, four of my 5 watermelons survived, and this is what they're doing. It's so exciting. So I have Sugar Baby and Crimson. This guy, Crimson, is like king of kings that I have to keep separating out his legs to give him room to keep sprawling. I'm only seeing still the male flowers starting to show up, which means the females will come soon, and that's the actual watermelon that needs to be pollinated. So we should start having fruit set here probably in a couple weeks, which I'm so excited about. And I only had to replace one there in the back, but he's growing and is happy. Same can be said for the cantaloupes. The cantaloupes are big and mighty, well, at least 4 of them. 2 of them didn't survive the drowning, but I replaced them and they should be okay. Got a bunch of different varieties and a couple unlabeled stuff, but again, super happy. They're starting to blossom, which means once the female blossoms show up, it's gonna start setting fruit. So I imagine any day now I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna see a pollinated cantaloupe. So super exciting. The melons are happy. And the bugs aren't even really touching them. Like the grasshoppers are around, but the squash bugs haven't shown up. These guys are just healthy and happy and low maintenance, and I'm really thankful. So from the cantaloupe row, my eating squash starts. So butternut, honey nut, spaghetti squash, and then we transfer in to a lot of the decorative pumpkins, the whites, the Cinderellas, the big red ones. And I would say about 50% of these survived the drowning, and I had to replace the other 50%. So that's why some of them are much different sizes than the other. In coming out here nightly to check on everything, we have realized that the squash bugs have particular refined tastes. Some of the pumpkins and squash they're not really interested in, and some of them they love, and we can almost be sure to find some every single night. And those are the butternut squash, both varieties, the Waltham and the honey nut, the flat white pumpkins, which are the white stacker pumpkins, and the blue Cinderella looking pumpkins. I think it's like Yarrow is how you pronounce it. They love those. We have to come out with the vacuum and tape every single night to slurp them up and get the eggs off, because they are just feasting. But then on some of the other varieties, we haven't even found any squash. So that's interesting. Overall, I am so thrilled with the pumpkin patch. The irrigation is clutch. I am fertilizing them once a week with a foliar feed and just letting them go. And my hope really is that in October, you can barely even see the landscape fabric because of the sprawling vines and big pumpkins growing. So this is overall really positive. So here we're in the flower field. It's looking really wonderful. It has grown so much since we transplanted everything from like tiny little runts. It's growing so well. So I thought I'd take you through row by row, give you an update on how things are doing. In the outer row, the first row, I have Yarrow and I have gomphrena. The Yarrow, again, as I've said in other videos, I'm a couple months behind the proper planting timeline for a lot of things. So that's why mine are so much smaller. They should all be blooming out right now technically, but I'm just so thrilled that they're not actually just all dead. And this guy right here is giving me a bloom. So I get to see his color, which is so exciting. Look at these sweet little fluffy balls. I think they look like little Dr. Seuss flowers. I love them. I planted a mix which has white, bubblegum pink, and this really deep fuchsia purple. I'm kind of wishing I had more of these purples, because in the mix, it's clear it was heavy on the pink because I only have 2 of the fuchsias. So lesson learned for next season. But I love these guys. They're a great filler. They're branching out and filling out like crazy. When I planted them, they were like this big. So in probably like, what, 6 weeks maybe, they've gotten to this point, which is just awesome. And they're just gonna keep going until frost. They might even get out of control, honestly, at some point if I don't start cutting on them. So gomphrena is a huge, huge win. I'm really happy with them. This is the Gladiola row. We added stakes and netting because I'm getting to the point where the first succession planting is going to start to send out its bloom stalk. I'm not there yet, but I wanted the netting in place for when the flowers start growing through. I'm prepared and ready for them. This block I planted first to here. This block was second, and this block was third and fourth, and you can totally see in its growth habit the age that it is, which is exactly the plan. I did not want to have 300 gladiolas at one time. I wanted them in batches, and that's working out great. Gladiolas are very bug and disease prone and honestly can kind of be a pain, so I'm not even sure what the condition of the flowers are going to look like when they bloom, but I love this flower and I wanted to do it anyway. So we're pushing through. We're seeing how they do, if the thrips have gotten them or not. I've been treating them weekly, but you never know. It's biblical out here with the bugs, so I'm doing my best. And I'm just going to enjoy the flowers even if they're a little tarnished out here because they're just so colorful and ruffly, and it's a pastel mix. So all positives despite some evidence of thrips that I'm seeing. My favorite, most colorful row right now because my Benary giant zinnias are blooming, and it is the most joyful little patch of color in the whole field. These are the largest zinnias that you can buy. They're the giants, the Benary giants, and they are living up to their name. If you see some of these, they're like 5 inches, 4 inches across, which is huge for a zinnia. Normally your zinnias are like this one. They're cute, they're pretty, you know, but they're kind of weeny. And then you put them next to this bad boy. And you can see why the Benary giants are the kings, the queens. The kings. They're the king of the zinnia. So I love them, love them, love them. I need to go through here and cut and pinch some so we get more branches and more flowers, but really enjoying the color. In this section, I have my Oklahoma Carmine zinnias. They're smaller than the Benary, but it's the Oklahoma series, and I live in Oklahoma, so of course I had to grow them, obviously. And they are supposed to be a double. So sometimes they come out single, like this little weenie friend, but their true form is this double where they curl back on each other and create kind of this perfect little ball. Here's a great one. And it's a deep, deep fuchsia purple color. So these guys are just super cheery, one block of the same color. The rest of the row, in bad flower farmer state, got frustrated with labeling, so I don't remember what I planted. But it's the next succession. You can see their size, probably another month or two, probably about 4 or 5 weeks until they get to this spot. And once they start blooming, I'm gonna know what they are, but right now I don't know what they are. I have to wait for the bloom. So this is the next row up, and over here also was planted at the same time, so they're gonna be blooming. I don't have netting for them yet because they don't need it yet, but these guys, hopefully in August, I'll be able to see what they are, and they'll be blooming so beautifully. So zinnia row. This is my very full and very fluffy Cosmo row. I have 2 different types in this row. I have my double clicks, which are a double Cosmo. They're absolutely stunning. I'll see if I can find a picture somewhere because I've already cut down some of these and some of them aren't quite open yet, but I'm loving the doubles. And then the rest of it is whites and seashell, which is a very ruffly single, looks like a cupcake liner. I'm so excited. These guys definitely need to be pinched, which means you cut them down closer to their base. You cut them down about here. And then these will start sending out much stronger flower stalks, and you'll just get more blooms and big bushier plants. See how this guy is just pretty skinny and weeny? I want to come through and cut so he starts sending off big branches. You won't even be able to see the landscape fabric come September probably. Loving the Cosmos, but I have to come through and pinch. Here's my Celosia. I actually have to say that this is the one I'm most surprised with, because when we transplanted these guys, they were what, maybe 1.5 inches. When we planted them, they literally were planted under the fabric. Like they didn't even come up above the fabric. And I thought we just planted them in dark caves for them to die. And they didn't. Most of them came up. I only have maybe 4 or 5 gaps where they didn't survive. So I'm so excited about that. This first block is flamingo, so it'll send out a really pretty purple plume. But I also love the purple foliage because you have these purple green leaves, this like two-toned leaf, and then you pair that with like the green chartreuse of the Cosmo, and it's just awesome texture and color in your bouquet. And it doesn't even have to do with the flower, but just the leaves on the plants, which is just awesome. And then this second batch is pampas plume. So I have a couple different colors, and it's pretty neat that the color of the stalk gives you an indication of the color of the flower. So this one has a pink stalk, pink stem, and its flower is pink. This guy here is a greeny yellow, and so it hasn't budded yet, but his flower is going to be like a banana yellow. So it's pretty neat. Kind of gives you a hint of what it's going to be. So loving the Celosia for filler with the leaves, but then also its little pretty flame blossom that it gives. Now we're starting to enter into chaotic, panicked, throw things in the ground haphazardly zone. Nothing's labeled. I can just kind of tell what the things are by the leaves. But this section here, I have a lot of cinnamon basil, so I have more filler. I have a couple straw flowers that survived, and I have some grass, and that's about it. So that's all that's going on here. I have 3 72 count trays left in the house that has a combo of marigolds, cosmos, and like 5 different varieties of zinnias. And my plan is harden them off in about a week, plant them in every single open hole, and that'll be a wrap for the season. And it'll be what I get, and I won't leave anything empty. But it's very, very chaotic and haphazard. This row should be filled, but it was a combination of my stupidity and my 2-year-old toddler that condemned a lot of these to death. I hardened off the cosmos way too early, so they got a bit sunburned and runty. And then my sweet toddler, trying to help me water, ended up absolutely drowning the soil block. So they got burned and then drowned and then transplanted out into a field. So a lot of them didn't make it, but clearly some strong survivors have made it. So I've got probably a dozen marigolds in here that survived the great burn drowning of a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to fill in the rest of the gaps again with those trays. And the last 2 rows are my pro-cut sunflowers. Here are all my sunflowers. I'm so proud of them. I have 3 successions planted, and it was done a couple different ways, and it's actually proving what I read about with the do's and don'ts with sunflowers. So this tallest block I direct sowed as a test to see if I could get away with direct sowing, because it saves so much time and effort and supplies being able to do that. I had terrible germination. I think like 40–50% came up, which is a huge waste of money. So the direct sowing was a no-go. But because of that, as you can see under here, you can see all the gaps. That matters because the closer you plant sunflowers together, the shorter they will stay and their blooms will stay smaller, and that's the proper size for a bouquet that you want to enjoy. You don't want to have like a sunflower the size of your face in a vase at your table. It's just not a good look. So you plant them tightly together, 4 to 6 inches. Well, these guys didn't have the 4 to 6 inches. They have like 9–10 inches. So you can see this guy I'm going to cut. He's going to be beautiful. I'm going to enjoy him. He has a spider in him. That's disgusting. But look at his stalk. I mean, this is getting close to a broom handle. So when I cut it, I mean, that's just not great for a floral bouquet, but that's 100% because he wasn't planted tightly. Now come look at the ones that have been 6 inches together. So see these stems? Now obviously the flower head is not at the same point, and they'll continue to grow taller, but this stem is way different in thickness compared to the other ones. And see, it's because he's growing in his little sunflower forest. So 4 to 6 inches keeps them bouquet size and a manageable size. That was a good test that proved the theory. And then these guys were sown after that. Don't ask me the variety, I didn't label again. And then these little weenies and a block of little weenies over there were our last ones. When did we plant them? We planted them maybe a week ago. I think Wednesday last week we planted them. And then I'm gonna start the last row probably to fill the sunflower. So I'm really exciting. I am so thrilled. Looking through here, I clearly need to go through and I need to pinch and I need to cut out some spent blooms. But the nice thing about owning a flower farm is you always get to have your own flowers inside. So as part of my pinching and deadheading and all of that, I'm gonna go cut myself a bouquet to bring inside and enjoy. So come along for that. This is the joy of having your own flower farm. You can cut flowers and enjoy all the time, and it's helpful work because these were all pinched. They're not going to last the longest in the vase, but they needed to come out, and I didn't want to compost them. I wanted to enjoy them for the rest of their little life. So I'm going to let these rest in some solution, some hydrating solution, and then arrange them tomorrow in a vase inside to enjoy. Things are looking so wonderful here. I may be behind, but things are growing, things are blooming, and it's just going to be gangbusters, I think, in September and October, and maybe even August here. We'll see. So I hope you enjoyed this tour and you enjoyed all the new color that's showing up, and come back in future videos. Bye. I don't really have interest in fixing this right now, considering the temperatures outside. So right now I am just growing native grasses in this aisle that's getting wonderfully irrigated every day.